It was late October when my wife Monica and I decided to spend a weekend at our farmhouse. The place had been in my family for generations, nestled deep in the woods, far from the noise of the city. It was the perfect place to unwind and enjoy the crisp autumn air. The leaves had turned a brilliant shade of orange and red, and the cold bite in the wind felt refreshing. The farmhouse was cozy and rustic, with a certain charm that always made me feel at peace. That Saturday evening we decided to relax in the outdoor tub pool. The water was warm, steam rising into the cool night air while the stars twinkled above us. It was the kind of evening you dream about when you're stuck in the city, surrounded by the hum of everyday life. As we soaked, enjoying the peaceful quiet, a strange sound suddenly broke the silence. It started softly, barely noticeable at first, a faint crunching of leaves, like footsteps. I turned my head, listening closely. "Did you hear that?" I asked Monica, my voice low, trying not to sound too concerned. She nodded, her eyes wide. "Yeah, I thought it was just the wind at first, but it sounds like someone's walking." The crunching grew louder, more deliberate. The steps seemed to be getting closer, moving slowly but steadily. We both sat up in the tub, our hearts racing. There was no reason for anyone to be out here in the middle of the woods, especially at this hour. The only other house was miles away. "We should go inside," I whispered, feeling a sudden unease settle over me. We scrambled out of the tub, grabbed our towels, and rushed toward the farmhouse. My heart pounded in my chest as we ran, the cold air biting at our wet skin. Just as we reached the porch, a voice called out from behind us, "Stop! It's the police!" I froze. Monica froze. We both turned slowly to see two men in police uniforms emerging from the shadows, their flashlights shining directly in our faces, making it hard to see their expressions. My first thought was one of relief. Police meant safety, right? But something about the situation felt wrong. Why would the police be here out of nowhere? "Sorry to startle you," one of the officers said as they approached. "We've been investigating some unusual activity in the area. Someone reported seeing a police officer coming to this farmhouse every night, leaving just before dawn. Do you know anything about that?" Monica and I exchanged confused glances. We hadn't seen anyone, much less a police officer. This place was always so quiet, almost isolated from the world. "No, we haven't seen anyone like that," I replied. "We just got here for the weekend. What's this about?" The second officer stepped forward, his face serious. "We believe whoever has been impersonating a cop is using this farmhouse as a hideout. We've been trying to catch him for weeks. The thought of some stranger sneaking around our property while we were away was deeply unsettling. We'll be keeping an eye on the area tonight," the first officer assured us. "Lock your doors and call us if you hear or see anything suspicious." With that, the officers turned and disappeared back into the woods, their flashlights bobbing in the darkness. Monica and I hurried inside, locking the door behind us. We didn't talk much as we dried off and got ready for bed, but the tension in the air was palpable. That night, I found it hard to sleep. Every little noise seemed louder than usual. Every creak of the old house sent my imagination spiraling. But eventually, exhaustion took over and I drifted off. I don't know how long I'd been asleep when a loud, violent banging on the front door jerked me awake. My heart leapt into my throat as I sat up in bed. Monica was already awake, her eyes wide with fear. "Who? Who's out there?" she whispered. The banging came again, harder this time, rattling the door on its hinges. I could hear someone on the other side, their breath heavy, almost desperate. I swallowed the lump in my throat and called out, "Who is it?" There was a brief pause, then the man outside spoke, his voice gruff and commanding. "Open the door." My blood ran cold. Something about the way he said it didn't sit right with me. The police had told us they were watching the area. Why would they come back like this, banging on the door in the middle of the night? Monica grabbed my arm, her voice shaking. "Call the real police." I fumbled for my phone, my hands trembling as I dialed 911. I explained the situation to the dispatcher, my words coming out in a rushed, panicked mess. She told me to stay calm and that officers were already on their way. Meanwhile, the banging continued. The man outside was getting more aggressive, pounding on the door like he was trying to break it down. I said, "Open the door, it's the police." I could hear the frustration in his voice. But I wasn't about to open that door. I knew something was wrong. A few minutes later, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the windows. I peeked outside and saw a squad car pulling up the driveway. Two uniformed officers stepped out, their guns drawn. The banging on the door stopped. I heard a commotion outside, and then the real police burst through the front yard, tackling the man who had been pretending to be an officer. As they arrested him, I watched from the window, my heart still racing. The impostor was a tall, scruffy man in a fake uniform. His face was twisted in anger, but there was something else there too, something darker, more unhinged. I shuddered, realizing how close we had come to letting him in. After the police left, taking the impostor with them, Monica and I sat in silence, trying to process everything. The farmhouse, once a place of comfort and peace, now felt like a stranger's home. We didn't sleep much that night, and when the sun finally rose, we decided to leave. That weekend was supposed to be a relaxing getaway. Instead, it turned into a nightmare, one that still haunts me every time I think about those footsteps in the woods, the voice outside our door, and how close we came to letting danger inside.